Welcome back to the 80s at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. We have with us today a panel, the team from Mercedes-Benz Farmington. It is the Evolving Parts Department, and we want to welcome back to the roundtable our great friends, Sean Parrott, who is the parts manager, and Shalisa Barney, the wholesale parts manager. Sean and Shalisa, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Ted, thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ted. Very happy to be here.
You guys are both a huge hit at the roundtable, and we've also had you at the After Dark show. And congratulations, Shalisa and Sean, on all the success that you're having. And I want to kind of hone in on that a little bit today, if I can. Sean, let me come to you first, and then Shalisa. Sean, how is your department set up there?
So we only have a few employees in our parts department. So we're set up front where I sit up front with the retail desk, manage the department, and I kind of sit in a service drive so I can kind of help funnel anything parts related from the service team before it gets back to my employees in the parts department. Then Shalisa sets up and takes most of the wholesale calls, deals with our e-commerce, answer emails there. I have an assistant manager as well as a stock person that sits in the parts department. He pretty much backs up everybody, and his main job is like pretty much what most parts managers do. He handles the inventory. And then I have one person that sits out in our shop and pretty much handles all our technicians. And at the moment, we have about 16 technicians.
Wow. Okay. And Shalisa, anything you'd want to add to that and the way it's set up?
I think the only thing I would say is we just are consistently looking for ways to make more room, and we're very big on keeping an area together for the e-commerce stations that Sean mentioned. We do a lot of shipping with online retailers and also just shipping out of state to wholesale shops. And so we have a designated shipping station that we just work a lot at.
Now, Shalisa, is that a newer part of your business, or, has the dealership been doing that for some time?
It's definitely newer. Sean started it shortly, I believe shortly before I started, and then kind of let the reins go to me. But it is definitely new, and we're just constantly finding ways to improve on it and see what else we can do further.
So Sean, you got the, go ahead.
I was going to add, we did, last year was our first year, and we did just over $250,000. So I set a goal this year of $500,000. Through 2 months, we already had hit 180,000 and pacing well over $1 million. So, I'm almost doubling our goal and, quadrupling our total from last year with e-commerce.
Wow. So you've got, Sean, you've got the retail, you've got the wholesale, and now the e-commerce. So it's kind of even like 3 departments in one.
Correct. Yeah, and that's how we set everybody up. Most places, they only deal with the shop or they only deal with wholesale, usually stores, or they have a little bit of a mix. We basically have 3 different, we're like a shopping mall inside our parts department. We have 3 different type of retailers. We have our e-commerce, our wholesale, and then our service side with the technicians.
Now, Shalisa, give us a little bit of the backstory. How did you come about to the parts department? Because you didn't start out there. I remember you told us the story a little while back. If you don't mind, fill us in on that.
Yeah, so I had worked as an express technician for a Honda dealership for about just under a year. Wanted to dip my toes into automotive after working for AutoZone as a part-time second job. I decided I really liked being in the automotive industry. I just didn't necessarily like the manual labor that it took of working on the cars all day. So I took a step back to think about what do I want to do within a dealership. I dabbled a little bit in considering the possibility of going to finance. But to be honest, I met with Sean. They had just seen that I had been a technician and also worked at AutoZone, and he needed somebody. So we met up and he talked about it, and I was definitely nervous. I was like, I've worked on cars, but I don't know all that too much about cars, especially so many car parts that there are. But Sean just took a chance in I had a good personality and the work ethic to make an impact, and he gave me a chance, and I do love it. Parts is a great place to be. I think it's definitely something people look over a lot of the times, but a parts department is definitely important. And I feel like me and Sean do a really good job at trying to make that stand out.
And I realize you could have done things like you mentioned finance, but do you think that being an express advisor and your background as a technician has helped you in being
Oh,
in the parts?
yeah, 100%. I think it's helped bind a lot of the issues between like technicians and parts advisors. Sometimes it's hard to look at the other department and understand what they go through on a daily basis. So being that I was a technician and I've experienced that, I've found ways to work with our technicians and just constantly find ways to make it better between the both of us. And it's kind of, we're mended in there with the service department. We're one team for sure.
Sean, were you looking for somebody in particular for this position, or what's your mindset on there?
Yeah, we had expanded and we were looking for somebody to take over as the wholesale department, because at the time I was trying to, basically be parts manager, do all the duties of that while being the full-time wholesale person. So the thing about me was I didn't want somebody that necessarily just had, automotive background. I wanted somebody who had a customer service background, because I figured, you can teach somebody how to look up parts, you can teach somebody automotive, you can't teach somebody how to have good personality or good customer service. So when her resume came across, my desk, I jumped at it. I mean, our HR manager was really impressed with her over the phone. And I mean, she blew me away. I mean, she's one of the things is usually we kind of went out of character where you say, okay, I'll talk, we'll take a look, we'll give you a call back. She's basically hired on the spot. I like to say, which is nowadays you don't do that very often, but that's the caliber she had. And the thing was, she might not remember, she had a job interview right after mine, so she had set them back to back. And I kind of was like, what I got to do that you don't even have to go to this second interview? Tell me, I can make the call on the spot. I already have it. You just tell me what we have to do that you don't have to. I called my general manager, Nick, over. I
Yeah.
said, what do we have to do this lady? She can start. She doesn't have to go. And that's then, the rest is history.
Well,
Mhm.
Nick is great. We've had him on with you in the past as well.
Yeah.
So, appreciate all he does as well. So, Shalisa, what are you doing differently to capture wholesale business there at Mercedes-Benz Farmington?
I think the biggest thing is focusing on the customer side of it, right? We do a really good job at putting a face to the name. When they call, they're not just talking to somebody that's selling a Mercedes part, they're talking to Sean and they're talking to Shalisa, right? And we're constantly building friendships and finding out what really they need, what their challenges are, and how we can ease that process for them. And I mean, the business just follows. It's just focus on the customers, build those relationships, and everything else just follows along.
Sean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's customer service. One thing was, you guys know very well about our schedule that we are open Tuesday through Saturday.
Yes.
And that was one of the biggest things was when we switched that schedule, we were concerned that, well, are people going to be okay with not calling us one day a week? Are they going to start calling somebody on Mondays and just kind of forget about us the rest of the week? But one thing we learned is that the shops have adjusted their schedule to accommodate us rather than the other way around. So, places know that. They just say, hey, we can't get Mercedes-Benz parts on Mondays. They know that now, just the same way you can't get Chick-fil-A on Sunday. So like I said, it's a big thing for us, for our customers, that they basically accommodated us for our schedule. But the thing was, we never get past the people buy from people. They know our names, they know our drivers' names, anything we can do. There are service customers. When they have a problem, our service department assists them with bringing them in, whether it's flashing or helping them diag or something like that. They're really good customers of our entire dealership.
Shalisa, you talk about the relationship with the customer, building that relationship. Is that something that the dealership has done under Sean's guidance, or is that something that you also embraced and you knew going in that's something that you'd want to add, as well to the mix?
I would love to take credit for it, Ted, but to be honest, that was all Sean's doing. He's always been put the customer first and figure out what you need to later. So I just can't take credit for that. That was Sean's doing. I agree with him, and I'm very glad. And I think that's why I'm here. And we've had as much success as we have had, but it definitely came down to Sean bringing that leadership a long time before I was there.
Okay. Well, Sean, you told us how you onboarded uh, Shalisa. Okay. How do you typically onboard employees, and what is that process like, Sean?
We kind of make them, so most places will, hire somebody. They'll just bring them on. Okay, parts. They'll basically take no time in training them.
Mm.
And what they'll do is they'll pretty much throw them right in the fire and, sink or swim. And I think it's hard, even if you're a seasoned parts person, something's going to be new to you, and you're basically not ever going to get them a rhythm, or it's going to take a long time. So what we did was I had her sit with me for pretty much 3 weeks before I let her even, I think, touch the computer. And it's basically see how our candor on the phone, how we spoke to people, how we answered questions, how we handled situations, and just sit back and observe. And then for a few weeks, just okay, then at week 2, she could answer questions like, hey, why is this, why or that? But the first week, I didn't let her ask questions. I said, look, just kind of sit there and observe. Don't ask questions, just observe, take it all in. And then third week, started getting her, we're like, okay, started showing her, okay, this is how you look up the parts. Because I figured that was one of the final things we would need to do, is how to do your job. The main thing is, why do we do certain things? How is very easy, but if you understand why we do it, then everything else just comes for you. And then fourth week, finally, there with her, sitting, and she started answering some phone calls, seeing how, and the first couple of times it's a little rough, you're like, okay, do I say the right thing? Maybe I don't. But, after that, it's easy because you already know the answers a lot of time. And like I said, just by not being thrown into the fire, I mean, you're not going to lose the person's morale, or anything like that. That like, oh man, they didn't show me this, or I don't understand that. They just left me by myself. We've all heard those things before. And I think by taking that person and making sure they're properly trained, and like I said, they know how to handle situations before they're put in that situation, goes a long way.
Shalisa, has that made that easier? Has it made it easier for you, moving forward?
Definitely. I think Sean was really smart in the aspect of he showed me why we do things and how to do them as well at the same time. But he just reassured me he would be there for any questions that I had, and he was. That was the biggest thing that came into it. In a parts department, you have something to learn every day. I think in the automotive industry, there's something new that you can learn every single day. So having someone like Sean to be behind me and just always there to answer the question, and even if he doesn't know the answer, we figure it out, we find an answer. Just focus on the customer first is what he told me to do, and if you have a question, we'll figure it out. And that's what we've always done.
Parts has not been historically the most glamorous part of the dealership, right? But it is the engine that runs the dealership. The showroom is where, it's much more glamorous and so on and so forth. But I see that you folks are changing that. Shalisa, do your clients seek you out in wanting to speak to you and talk to you, and have you help them?
Definitely. I mean, we have some people love Sean more than me, and some people love me more than Sean. I think when they call, it's not a question of if they want to talk to one of us over the other. I think if somebody else answers the phone because me and Sean aren't there, they're definitely waiting to talk with us. But it is also a shock to some customers if they don't talk with us, if I'm not there to answer the phone and somebody else picks up, and they're just always there, and they know that even if it's something that I haven't looked up before, a part that I don't know of, that I'll be able to work with them one way or another and find it. At the end of the day, they know I'm going to be able to take care of them and figure out a solution.
And Sean, anything you'd want to add to that?
No, I mean, and think for Shalisa as a woman in this industry is pretty tough, because she faced it, and that was one of the concerns, how people didn't want to talk to her, or they would basically would act like she didn't know what she was talking about. And I had to deal with that as a manager, sitting there and saying, no, I'm not worried about those people. If they don't want to deal with us because you don't want to pick up the phone, then we don't need them as customers. But we still face that. This is 2023, and we still face that where, I want to talk to a man or a guy. But now, I mean, I don't have that problem. She showed even our sternest person that she knows what she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, that is true. That is something that I kind of just let pass. But we had quite a few incidences, and Sean had my back 100% of the time, but I think I've reached a point that I am knowledgeable enough that I've had the passion every single day to learn more. And I'm very reassuring if there is any of those times that someone does have a doubt in me, that I can do the job just as good as a man, if not better. So.
Love it. Love it. Sean, back to you. Maintaining the correct inventory. Any different approaches that you're using at Mercedes-Benz Farmington?
Yeah, I think one thing we've tried, and we're very lucky. We have a dealership group that backs us and lets us, basically manage our department. But the one thing we're seeing is, whether it's a Stock Pro program from Mercedes-Benz or Parts Eye program or RIM, there's all these different names where manufacturers are basically controlling your stock and allowing you to return after a certain month. But you know what the magic number is? 13 months. That's how, and where most dealerships or principals or GM, they have the 12-month number as their favorite number. So anything over 12 months gotta go. So for us, the one thing I've seen is that what you do is you just wait to 13 months. Wait that extra month. Let the manufacturer take back the phased out parts, things that you used to sell that you don't sell anymore, and then use your regular return money to return your true obsolescence, the ones that customers return. Customers never picked up. You ordered a left instead of a right. It sat there. So don't waste your true obsolescence return on stuff that phased out, that if you waited an extra month, you would have had the manufacturer take back on their own anyway. So just wait that extra month. I know it's hard for a lot because they're so fixated on the 12 months, age. Change it to a 13-month age. And what happens is you're going to take more obsolescence out long term. Your inventory actually be cleaner than if you just make sure everything's gone after 12 months.
That's interesting. We've had a lot of talk on this roundtable already about obsolescence. There's a lot of discussion about it. And, it was probably a small little part of the discussion 6 months or a year ago, but now a lot of people are talking about that. Sean, back to you. What would you say, is there one specific challenge that you're going to need to overcome in the parts department in the next year? And then Shalisa, I'll come to you with the same question. Sean Parrott.
Well, for us personally, we've run out of room. Our building was built about 7 years ago, and our sales department has plenty of room. We're one of the largest by square footage dealers around, but our parts department and our service shop has run out of room. So the only thing we can do is, the way you add more techs without anybody leaving is you're going to have to go to shifts. So we went to shifts where we have a main shift where that's the hours we're open. Then we have technicians come in at 5 a.m. and work one shift, and technicians working from the afternoon to the evening. And how we did it was, it's our recon team that opens up. So now we have shorter hours to basically get parts for our recon or reconditioning team in. So what we've done is, we went ahead and started stocking non-OEM, non-Mercedes-Benz parts, because we sell a fair amount of all different makes and models. And we didn't want to have, of course, we don't have a Chevy Corvette oil filter because we're a Mercedes dealership. Well, the guy at 5 o'clock in the morning, he doesn't want to hear that. So what happened is, we started with different aftermarket manufacturer, different dealerships, and we started stocking non-Mercedes-Benz parts and tires. So that just the same way we have a fill rate with our OEM cars, we want the same fill rate with our non-OEM cars.
Love it. Strong. Shalisa, any specific one challenge that you're going to need to overcome in the parts department in the next year?
I would have to agree with Sean. I think it's just finding space. I mean, we're growing and just consistently getting bigger. And so we do just need to find more ways to have more space, and also maybe just have some more time in the day.
Yeah, Ted, our parts department, we move around like Tetris sometimes, just because we got to move this to move that. And, we get together and we move like the din bins, or, we move regular bins. We move everything around. Like I said, it's like a game of Tetris sometimes, so we can see how do we build more room that you don't look cluttered.
All right. Last question for today. For the audience watching, we have all kinds of people. We have general managers, we have dealers, we have fixed ops directors, as you know, service managers, advisors, folks in the parts department, reconditioning. Sean, you first, and then Shalisa. Any advice you'd have for our audience looking forward into the balance of 2023? Another month or so and we're halfway through, right? Any advice for your peers watching today, running a parts department, and then Shalisa, from your perspective, running wholesale parts, anything that you'd recommend to them that they be doing or be looking out for over the next, 6, 7, 8 months?
Well, I think we got to focus more on mentoring and building our employees. I don't care what type of vehicle you sell, how much parts you sell. Your most important inventory, the most important thing in your dealership is your people. Okay. And I think people forget about that, or some managers might feel like, well, I can only share so much because they might be gunning for my job. And I think that's a very old school way of thinking, that if I train my replacement, they'll be my replacement. But you got to look at it. Yes, train your replacement. They'll be a replacement so you can advance in your career. And I think that's the biggest thing, is training our people. A lot of our people in our industry are retiring age, getting retired. We have to train build your bench, train the next, group of parts advisors, service advisors, whatever it is. A lot of these people might not have a background, so you're going to have to train them from the beginning, but you get to train them your way. If you want great customer service skills, you can train people to have great customer service skills. And I think that's the biggest thing. Invest in your people. There's not many people applying like it used to be. And I think that's the biggest thing now. If you have somebody, invest in that person. And I think that's what's going to be different from this year and beyond.
Shalisa, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, bouncing right off of Sean there, the results from investing in your people, those people then invest in the customers, right? And that's my biggest piece of advice, is have that customer service, focus on building relationships and friendships, and let everything else follow. Be ready to go into every day with the passion to want to learn more, and you'll just continue to rise.
You both are very refreshing to hear. Shalisa Barney and Sean Parrott, the team from Mercedes-Benz Farmington. Congratulations to both of you on the success that
Thank
you're
you.
having this year. You're a big part of the fixed ops community. And, I want to thank both of you on behalf of the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Sean, you won a best practice award there not long ago. So
I did, but I tell you what, one of these days I wouldn't mind my coworker having one of them on her desk either.
all right.
I would
So
love that.
I think she'll be in the running this time. So, hey,
yes.
great news. And again, I do mean that very sincerely, very refreshing, Shalisa, to hear you and Sean and your perspective on parts and what you're doing to bring parts forward. So everybody, the team from Mercedes-Benz Farmington, Sean Parrott and Shalisa Barney, here today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thank you
Ted.
for having us.